Okay, continuing on with my kind of clearing and orchard garden creation idea. We're out here now, it's evening. I took a break for some dinner, and I've got my cone pit renderer ready to go. It's dug out, soil's been up on the bed. Got a place that once I cool off the charcoal, I can soak them in compost tea in here. Some bricks that I might set on either side of this to trial. Took a 55-gallon drum and cut it in 2/3 and 1/3. This one is watertight, and I'm going to try putting some water in there and putting it over this as a trial to see viability test for hot water bath canning over a renderer like this. The other third of it I'll use to try to generate charcoal in this container, see if it works the same way of having oxygen excluded at the bottom, if it makes a good clean combustion, charcoal production, etc. And then maybe this could be a portable burner with this that I can do canning or boil water or whatever out in the woods. And again, I got some dried buckthorn, pruned up some Scots pine branches from just over here with a pole saw just to tidy up. They're all run through, and then I'll go and scrounge for other dry stuff that's laying. You can see I've got metal container that'll be where the embers go first to cool off, and then they'll move over to here with some nice old like dirty compost tea stuff. And of course I've got water for safety to put things out if need be. I've got my shovel and I can always throw some soil on top. So let's see how it works. Few simple basic ingredients there. So you can hear it's definitely, there's some wet wood in there, but overall a bunch of dead branches from Scots pine. A little smokier than I'd like, but boy did it light off really quickly. Something about the insulated by the earth and the angles being aiming all the heat, I guess, back to the center. It lit up with such gusto, and it seems like it's wanting to clarify the smoke. And some of that, I'm going to guess, is steam, moisture being driven off. It doesn't smell too smoky. Yeah, a little bit, but not too bad. But I'm going to let this settle for a little bit, see if it clears up and gets a really hot core. In the meantime, I'm going to dig another one nearby so I can start that one and then come back, see if I can phase back and forth between two holes and maybe even a third in the container. Who knows? But it works like it did the other day. Pretty much everything that falls down turns to charcoal. So once the smoke starts to clear up, I can hit it a little bit with the shovel and knock some coals down to the bottom, which should be preserved as charcoal. So let's hope it clears up. But not too bad. Not that great. We'll get it better. Real nice core happening here. Super hot. I mean, ridiculously hot. And yeah, it's getting dark, so it's hard to say. But I'm only seeing, I think, water vapors being driven off. For the most part, we're running on pine branches. I'm going through, probably can't even see it at this point, but I got my loppers. Just lopping up pieces of pine here, feeding them in. While this one was getting up to speed, dug a second pit. I have a feeling this isn't going to show up. Anyway, I'll get the second one going. It's right here. And then there's another one I can do in a barrel here, so I can try 3 things at once. Again, my water for protection. But this is really transforming those tops into charcoal really quickly. Very much looking forward to figuring out a riser situation and being able to put my 30-gallon drum filled with water and just see how fast that can boil. I mean, I could imagine like 2 minutes, 3 minutes, I don't know. So I'm going to play with that maybe tonight, we'll see. But so far so good. Cranking hot, no oxygen down at the bottom. Should be converting entirely over to charcoal, and with clean combustion for the most part. Can't say I've ever experienced quite this thing. It's like These two looks a little bit like two, especially in the camera viewfinder thing, look like two flaming eyes. There's a huge devil or something underground looking up with flaming eyes. It's a very surreal experience to see two potent fires going side by side. They're both running so hot, so clean right now. It's pretty remarkable. I'm not smelling any smoke. I'm just feeling just an absolute wall of radiant heat. I think because the earth is just like just sending it out really effectively. Doesn't seem to be affected by any breeze, but it's a pretty still night. For what it's worth, I'm doing this in a wet climate after it rained, you know, just to be really safe. But I also made sure, looking up above, there's a little bit of pine here, but I don't even see the hot air tickling it, so it feels pretty safe. And again, I've got about 40 gallons of water to quench this. Making a ton of charcoal down below, minimal ash. Periodically I hit it, you know, I kick in a stick or use the shovel to pat it down just to kind of get that coal bed really established. Yeah, I'm gonna go collect some more wood, keep these going. This really is a space, this calls for, you know, like an actual party around this. It's too much heat, too interesting to just be like for work's sake to generate charcoal. So I can imagine a whole ring of like 10 of these around a group of people and everybody tending them and making it a big potluck scenario. But for now, as a trial, I'm just absolutely floored with the performance of this cone pit concept to generate charcoal. Getting close to the end here. This is the one I started with almost up to the lip of where I dug in with hot embers. It's really hard to translate this into video. My plan right now is to take a hay fork and very expeditiously take this material that hasn't finished charring and drop it on this one, which I started about a half hour later, which is doing okay, but I've sent the junky stuff to. My idea is to get the brands, the stuff that hasn't finished charring, up and off over to here. That'll spike this, give it a good last hurrah heat blast, and then I can start getting in with a shovel and harvesting the charcoal and sending it over to my quenching tank, which you can't really see, but you've seen it in other videos. I'll bring it closer because it's going to happen pretty soon. So hay fork takes this material off, sends it to the secondary. Makes me happy that I have two of these. I can really fine grain it and kind of time things and be continuously useful. 1, 2, I could imagine 3, 4, 5, like I said before, just a whole ring of them where you're managing all throughout. Make a day of it and make like a cubic yard of really high quality, high heat charcoal and be doing something useful. Again, I'd love to have, you know, is it a hot water bath on here? Is it a copper coil? Is it some sort of exchange that goes to an IBC tote in a greenhouse? There's something more to this, I'm sure. But for now, I just want to get the mechanics down and understand it. So I'm going to pull these off, set them on the second fire, pull out the charcoal, send it into here, and then I'll make another video of that. I know this won't translate in video, but I just moved the last of the bits over to the second burn zone to try to finish them off. And from a person that's interested in charcoal, I'm just like flipping right now. I don't know the volume of this, but it's at least the size of this galvanized container. 15 gallons, 20 gallons. I can hear it crackling. Little crystal crackles. It's blue. It's white. It's all the things that I would expect of a really high quality charcoal. Let me see if I can, bear with me, let's see if I can, for those of you that are into making charcoal for ag purposes or otherwise, it's, well actually just for ag, because like this is too fine to be used for a charcoal grill because that'd be a waste. But check this out, and that's just beautiful straight charcoal. I mean, it's like molten heat of the sun right there. It's actually looking a little blue on the camera. So the second one's going to finish off. I'm going to be taking this now and putting it into a quench bath. So I'll fill this galvanized tin with as much water as I can and slowly start transferring and stirring to pop it, cool it, basically thermally shock it so that it's expanded as much as possible. And then secondarily, once it's cooled down, I'll transfer it to a bigger HDPE plastic drum cut in half lengthwise or tall-wise and filled with urine and compost, and actually inoculate it so that I can truly call it biochar. So there we go, into here. That one will get the same treatment later. I don't need to film that. Really glad I staged these again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I think I can imagine for the next round. Clear an acre for an orchard, set aside your firewood, lay your tops that are green for your hugelkultur, and then make charcoal out of the rest, inoculate the hell out of it, and spike your hugelkultur beds with it. Feels like a pattern that is very exciting. Molten surface of the sun, terra preta. I still got a ways to go down there. That was a hole that took me about 3 minutes to dig, and that's all just gorgeous charcoal. The longer I wait, the more it turns to ash, but in a slow way. I'm just using rainwater here to quench it, thermally shock it. From what I understand, that's the way to really get it porous, open. It's already just straight C6, basic carbon, stable, non-reactive, structural stuff. But then when you take it from high heat to low heat real quickly, it's supposed to pop and be ready to absorb nutrients. So once this is cool enough, it's going to get transferred over to that. Where'd it go? There we go. 55-gallon drum, cut in half length, tall-wise. That'll flip over on its side. I'll add some compost tea from over there. Pee in it a couple times, because that's always a nice way to inoculate the soil in my mind. But whatever this container is what the first... Here, let's see. There's the compost tea I'm going to use. 10 gallons? 15 gallons? I'm not sure. It's a lot wider than it is tall. I'll figure that out, I guess. It doesn't matter. That's beautiful stuff. Hot, a little tiny bit of ash on the surface, but overall really good. Just fine. It was like so thermally shocking to be in that pit. I mean, it looks like a freaking volcano. Seems like everything shattered to a small size, and in the process of messing with it with a shovel, it breaks down even further. So this can be a great garden amendment. Compost tea to spike it, urine, etc. And then we got that whole second one, so 2 of these will be filled by the end of tonight. And this is all with branch wood, dead and diseased elm, branch wood, and pine. Stuff I'd never want to use for a fireplace, and only marginally be interested in using for like an outdoor wood pit. These are reusable, but these are also going to be excavated as part of my pond in the future. So those holes are actually useful to me in future projects. So we'll see how it all goes. That's what we're getting out of it. Oh man, am I excited with this. Pretty weird to be excited by stuff like this, but no it isn't, because this is amazing. That's the first batch, extracted, quenched, and put into this container. And I get that this represents about 25 gallons, so 10 gallons, roughly. It's a good texture. I put enough water on it. It's cooled off enough to be in here safely. I can handle it. Shatters easily. I mean, it's wet right now, so it's hard to say if it's crystalline and all that good stuff, but it looks pretty fragile and shattery. Then we got the last fire. I'm going to start cutting underneath and extracting that and putting it in. You can see I did the first shovelful or 2. water again, but basically robbing the core while it's finishing, and see if we can't get it done. This is the first pit. Safe. Definitely ready to leave for the night. I didn't have to pour water into it. It's really cauterized. I mean, this is hot baked clay edge, so I can fire this again or cut it out for the swale pond. I don't know what I'm going to do in here, but I know I'm going to cut down. This is going to be my waterway. This is my walkway, and that's my raised bed, so either way I can continue to dig down, or I can use it as this cone for now. You know, if I take this Scots pine out right here, or other trees right around it. It's hard to see in the dark, but you get the idea. I can render them in this. I mean, it's like so, it's amazingly simple. There's the hole, another hole, and you just keep them going. That first one made that in about an hour. Very little smoke, very comfortable to be around. That's a ton of charcoal. While it's hot, I gotta get some urine or compost tea on it, really activate it, and then it goes out to these hugel mounds. We looked at this before. Now it's darkness, but all of this will get this. This will be a 2-acre orchard, roughly. I'll just get a ton of charcoal inoculated with my pee and other valuable stuff, and set in motion. A lot of fun. That's the next day. It's actually 2 days later. I did another batch last night too, but thought it would be good to show a follow-up. This is the finished char from one pit. That's my hand for reference. I don't know how many gallons, probably close to 8, I would guess. 8 or 10. Perfect stuff in my mind. It has all the properties I'd want to see in charcoal. It's crystally. It breaks down quickly. Your hands get clean easily afterwards. As a test, this is a little bit of soil from scraping the edges. As a test, I left a little bit in the bottom overnight. I thought maybe it would actually just go out and I could get some charcoal in the morning. It does not do that. You get ash. So, I mean, there's a little underneath, but that's dirtier than I'd like. It's a little bit more ash than I'd like. So it seems like the theme is you monitor it throughout the evening or whenever you're doing it, and when it looks like most, if not all of it, has turned over to charcoal, you get it out and you quench it right then and there, rather than waiting for another day. Potentially, I could have had it there, maybe a piece of metal over the whole thing with rocks on it would let it finish off. But something about leaving hot stuff overnight unattended doesn't make ideal sense. So I would say plan to quench it, plan to get it out and put it in a container. Tried it in a barrel. That worked well enough, but it was a lot slower and a lot smokier than in an insulated pit like that. So 2 burns. We got that container last night, all of this from the night before with this taken out, and about an equal amount of this already spread across these hugel mounds that I'm starting to sketch out. Again, remember, all of this is about the idea of having charcoal to activate and impregnate these long-term raised beds. There'll be tree crops in here, probably planted in the spring, then a bunch of annual stuff on the edges, and then rhizome barriers on the edge of that. These will be the ponds excavated out to fill in here, and these 2 pits, once I'm done rendering down the tops of these Scots pines that I'm taking, which will be over the next week or 2, so basically I can render them down almost in position. These will then eventually get dug out, all that material thrown on the beds, and this will be a little micro pond or swale, you know, a couple feet deep, hand dug and brought up. So we get pond, walkway, garden, bed, walkway, pond, walkway, garden, bed, walkway, pond, so on and so forth up to the end of the property line. So, but yeah, cone pit method, very low tech. That's all I needed. a lighter, some paper, and then whatever I wanted to turn to charcoal. And some water, obviously. You need water around. Plan, if you're going to do one of these, plan to have at least, the first time, 3 5-gallon containers filled with water. I only need about 1 to quench it, but just in case, I mean, fire started squirting over here. It got real hot for a little while. And do it after a good heavy rain and a wet time of year. Please be safe, but have fun.